The snarling erupted at 11:47 p.m., sharp enough to cut through the kitchen window's double-pane glass. Maggie Reed set down the cast-iron skillet she'd been scrubbing, sudsy water dripping from her arthritic fingers. Not coyotes, she knew their yipping chorus by heart after 3 winters alone. These were hunting hounds, at least 4 of them, their baying echoing off the mountain face behind her property. Flashlight beams sliced through the lodgepole pines. Carl Morrison's voice carried on the wind. "Got him cornered, move left, block the creek." Through her kitchen window, Maggie watched the lights converge near her property line. The dog's snarling intensified, punctuated by something else, a sound she'd never heard before. Not quite a howl, not quite a whimper, something between defiance and despair. She grabbed Bill's old Remington air rifle from beside the door, not bothering with her coat. The December cold hit her like a physical blow, 20 below and getting colder. Snow crunched under her slippers as she moved toward the commotion. The scene materialized in the moonlight. Carl and 2 other men, their dogs forming a tight semicircle around something pressed against her fence line. The creature moved, dragging itself forward, and Maggie's breath caught. A wolf, gray-white fur matted with blood, back legs dragging useless behind it. But it wasn't running toward the forest for escape. It was heading uphill, toward the ridge where wolf howls echoed every night. The wolf reached the invisible boundary where her property ended and wilderness began. It lifted its head, releasing a broken call, not the proud howl of a predator, but something desperate, pleading. An answering presence emerged from the shadows. A massive black wolf, easily 90 pounds, stepped out from behind a boulder. The pack's alpha Maggie recognized the authority in its stance, even from 50 yards away. The wounded wolf crawled forward another foot, whimpering now, a sound that belonged to a puppy, not a full-grown predator. The black wolf moved closer, and for a moment, Maggie thought she was about to witness a rescue. Instead, the alpha did something that made her stomach turn. It walked a full circle around the wounded wolf, slow and deliberate. Then it stopped, facing away, and lifted its leg. The stream of urine splashed on the snow. Inches from the wounded wolf's face, a message clearer than any snarl. "Oh, you are nothing. You belong nowhere. You are already dead to us." 3 other wolves materialized from the forest. They didn't attack. They didn't need to. They simply turned their backs and melted into the darkness, following their alpha. The wounded wolf's head dropped to the snow. Its body shuddered not from cold, but from something deeper. Rejection, complete, final, irreversible. "There he is. Take the shot." Carl's voice shattered the moment. The dogs surged forward. The wolf tried to rise, managing to get its front legs under it before collapsing again. But instead of surrendering, it turned not toward the forest, but toward the only structure in sight, Maggie's chicken coop, empty for 2 years, door hanging ajar. The wolf dragged itself through her yard, leaving a dark trail in the moonlight snow. 20 feet, 15, 10. The dogs gained ground, their handlers' boots crunching closer. Maggie raised the air rifle and fired. The pellet struck the pine tree 3 feet from Carl's head, bark exploding in a shower of splinters. Jesus Christ! Maggie! What the hell? That's far enough. Carl, that thing killed 3 of my goats this week. She kept the rifle raised, though her arms trembled from more than cold. Your goats are already dead. This wolf can barely crawl. It's still a predator, still dangerous. So am I, apparently. She chambered another pellet, the mechanical click loud in the sudden silence. "Get off my property, all of you!" Carl's flashlight beam swept across her face, then down to the rifle. "You're making a mistake." Maggie, that's not some stray dog. That's a wild animal. I know exactly what it is. Her voice carried a strange certainty she didn't fully understand. It's something that just got told it doesn't belong anywhere. Now move! The wounded wolf had reached the coop, disappearing into the shadow beyond the broken door. The dogs whined, pulling at their leads, but their handlers held them back. "This isn't over," Carl said. "I'll be back with the sheriff in the morning. Law's clear about harboring dangerous wildlife. Looking forward to it." They left, grumbling and cursing, their lights bobbing away through the trees. Maggie stood in her slippers and nightgown until the engine sounds faded down the mountain road. Then she turned toward the coop. The wolf lay in the far corner, pressed against the wall. One eye, the only one she could see, tracked her movement. Yellow, almost pale gold in the moonlight, leaking through the gaps in the boards. Blood pooled beneath its body, black on the old concrete. But it was the other wounds that made Maggie's breath catch. The shoulder bore a distinctive scar-pattern parallel gouges, too evenly spaced to be accidental. She'd seen enough dog attacks to know the difference. These were punishment bites, delivered with surgical precision, the kind a pack gives to members who've broken fundamental rules. "What did you do?" she whispered. The wolf's eye closed, but its ear twitched toward her voice. Maggie backed out slowly, leaving the door open. Whatever this creature had done to earn Exlo from its own kind, it had chosen her derelict coop as its final refuge. The least she could do was let it die somewhere that wasn't soaked in its own urine, marked as worthless by its own family. She made it halfway to the house before stopping. Bill would have already been heating water, gathering old towels, preparing to do something stupidly compassionate. "Can't save everything, Mags," he used to say, right before trying to save whatever broken thing had crossed their path. The wolf would probably die before morning, probably. But that word probably had always been her weakness. She turned back toward the house to get supplies, not noticing the curtain falling back into place in Carl Morrison's kitchen window a quarter-mile away, or the phone call he was already making. Before we continue, please leave a like and subscribe. Let me know which city you're watching from. Now, let's get back to the story. 6 a.m. Gray light leaked through the kitchen window. Maggie's lower back seized as she lifted the water bucket from the sink. The muscle spasm shot down to her tailbone, the same ones that used to send her to bed with heating pads when Bill was alive to handle the chores. She grabbed the stack of moving blankets from the hall closet, the ones that still smelled like machine oil from Bill's workshop. Her breakfast, 2 eggs, scrambled, untouched on the counter. The thought of eating made her throat close. The thermometer by the door read -18. The coop door hung exactly as she'd left it. No tracks leading out. She pushed through the opening, boards scraping her shoulder. The wolf hadn't moved, same corner, same position. Only the rise and fall of its ribs showed life. The blood beneath it had frozen into dark crystals on the concrete. Maggie set the bucket 3 feet away. Water sloshed over the rim, immediately forming ice where it hit the floor. She unfolded a blanket, navy blue with oil stains, and laid it within reach. The wolf's eye opened, tracked her. The pupil dilated so wide the gold iris nearly vanished. She backed toward the door. "There's water and warmth, if you want it." Movement in her peripheral vision. Through the gap in the coop wall, she saw them 4 wolves at the forest edge, standing in a line 50 yards out, still as cemetery headstones. The wounded wolf saw them too. Its breathing changed. Quick, shallow pants that fog-puffed in the freezing air. A sound emerged from its throat, not quite a whine, not quite a howl, the plea of something that still had hope. The black alpha stepped forward from the line, It moved with deliberate slowness across the snow. Each step measured, not stalking. Ceremonial. It stopped 20 feet from the coop. The wounded wolf dragged itself toward the door, front legs pulling, back legs dead weight. It managed 6 inches, 8, a foot. The alpha lifted its head and released a howl long, pure, filling the morning air. The other 3 joined, their voices weaving into harmony. Then silence. The alpha turned, not just its head, its entire body, presenting its back to the coop. It walked away without looking back. The others followed in single file. The wounded wolf's head dropped to the concrete with a sound like dropped meat. Something went out of its eye, not the light of life, but the light of trying. Maggie's knuckles went white on the doorframe. The wolf wasn't going to drink the water, wasn't going to take the blanket. It had just been told, in front of a witness, that it no longer existed. The meat was gone. The blanket, dragged halfway across the concrete floor, bore dark stains. Maggie's flashlight beam caught the evidence in the corner, a puddle of vomit, chunks of raw beef in bile. Her knees popped like firecrackers as she crouched beside it. The consistency told her what she needed to know. Too rich, too fast. The wolf's stomach had rejected what it desperately needed. She heard breathing from the darkest corner, rapid, shallow. The wolf had wedged itself between a broken nesting box and the wall. Only the white patch on its chest showed in the shadows, rising and falling too quick. Back in the kitchen, Maggie pulled the rice cooker from the top shelf, dust coating its lid. In the freezer, she found the chicken carcass from Sunday's dinner. Her fingers moved on memory 15 years as a veterinary assistant before she married Bill, before they moved to Montana to raise chickens and grow old. The rice cooker clicked on. She dropped the carcass into her largest pot, covered it with water, set it to simmer. The bones would need 2 hours minimum to release enough collagen. While waiting, she gathered supplies. The photo album from 1987, their first year here. Bill's reading glasses, still on the kitchen table where he'd left them 30 months ago. The camping chair from the garage, aluminum frame squealing as she unfolded it. By noon, the broth was ready. She strained it through cheesecloth, mixed it with overcooked rice until it formed a gray paste. The consistency of baby food, the smell made her own stomach growl she hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. The wolf hadn't moved from its corner. She set up the camping chair 6 feet away, placed the bowl between them. The aluminum frame creaked under her weight. Her lower back pressed against the canvas. Finding the exact spot where the arthritis burned, she opened the album. This was our first winter. See that snow? 8 feet that year. Bill built a tunnel from the house to the coop. Her voice filled the space. The wolf's ear twitched. Lost 12 chickens to a weasel that spring. Thing got through a gap smaller than my thumb. Bill stayed up 3 nights straight with his 22, never saw it. 4th night, I put flour on the floor, tracked it to a hole under the foundation. We plugged it with steel wool and concrete. Page after page, her voice going hoarse. The wolf's breathing slowed, deepened. Its head emerged from the shadows, just the muzzle, nostrils flaring. This one's from Bill's 60th. Made him a German chocolate cake. He ate half before telling me he'd always hated coconut. 28 years of marriage, and he never said a word. The wolf's head emerged fully. The damaged eye was visible now, clouded, weeping. The other eye fixed on the bowl, it pulled itself forward, front legs doing all the work, back legs dragging 6 inches, a foot. Its tongue emerged, pink against the gray muzzle, and touched the rice mixture. A tentative lick, then another. It ate slowly, pausing between swallows, body tense as if waiting for the rejection. Gravel crunched outside. Engine dying. Door slamming up. The wolf retreated to its corner. Maggie stood, knees grinding, and walked to the door. Sheriff Tom Bradley stood beside his cruiser, belly straining his uniform shirt, hand resting on his service weapon out of habit. Carl Morrison leaned against the hood, arms crossed. Maggie. Tom. Carl says you're harboring a wolf. Carl says a lot of things. Tom sighed, breath fogging. His wedding ring caught the light as he rubbed his face. Mind if I take a look? She stepped aside. He walked it to the coop, peered through the door, came back. That's a wolf, Maggie. I'm aware. Montana law's clear. Dangerous wildlife within town limits. We're 20 miles from town. Within the county. Then I can't ignore this. Carl stepped forward. It killed 3 of my... Your goats died Tuesday. That wolf's been crippled longer than that. Look at the swelling. Tom held up his hand. 48 hours. Maggie. After that, I come back with a warrant and animal control. They drove away. Carl's voice carrying through the cruiser's window. Maggie walked back to the coop. The bowl was empty, licked clean, but the wolf was standing, 3 legs holding its weight, the 4th hanging useless, standing and facing the door, facing the direction the pack had gone. The thermometer's red line sat at -22. Maggie's fingers stuck to the metal storm door handle. She jerked her hand back, skin tearing, leaving a pink strip on the frozen aluminum. 2 a.m. The wolf's breathing had changed an hour ago quick. Sharp inhalations that she could hear from her bedroom window. The space heater from the basement weighed 30 pounds. Her lower back locked with each step across the yard. Extension cord dragging behind, orange against the snow. The coop's interior temperature couldn't be more than 0. Ice crystals had formed on the wolf's fur, each exhale creating a small cloud that settled as frost on its muzzle. Its body shook, not trembles, but full-body spasms that made its bones knock against the concrete. She plugged in the heater. The coils glowed orange. She draped the moving blanket over her arm, approached slowly. The wolf's good eye tracked her, but the rest of its body stayed locked in shivering. The blanket settled over its back. The wolf flinched, muscles rigid beneath the fabric, but it didn't pull away. Its shaking intensified for a moment, then gradually slowed as the blanket trapped what little heat its body produced. Maggie sat on the camping chair. Her own teeth chattered. She'd forgotten her coat, wearing only Bill's old flannel over her nightgown. The heater created a small sphere of less cold air, maybe a 3-foot radius. The wolf dragged itself closer to the heat, not to herd the glowing coils. It stopped just outside touching distance, curled into a tighter ball. The blanket shifted, and she saw the shoulder wound clearly for the first time. 4 parallel gouges, infected, weeping yellow pus that had frozen into crystals. But beneath that, older scarring, a pattern of healed punctures that formed a deliberate arc, the kind of marking that meant something specific in wolf hierarchy. An engine growled up her drive, not the sheriff's Crown Victoria, a diesel truck running rough. Headlights swept across the coop walls, doors slammed, voices Carl's and someone else. The sweet reek of whiskey reached her even from inside. Carl appeared in the doorway, face flushed despite the cold. Behind him, a younger man she didn't recognize. Both carried rifles. "Get out of the way, Maggie. Go home, Carl. You're drunk." "Not that drunk." He stepped into the coop. "Tommy Bradley's too soft to do what needs doing. That thing's a killer. That thing can barely stand." "Don't care." Carl worked the bolt on his rifle. The mechanical click echoed off the walls. "Should have been dead 2 days ago." Maggie stood. The camping chair clattered backward. "You'll have to go through me." Carl's laugh came out as a bark. "You weigh maybe 90 pounds, soaking wet." He pushed past her. Her shoulder hit the wall, spine compressing. Pain shot from her lower back down to her knee. She grabbed for the doorframe, missed, went down hard on her left hip. The concrete knocked the wind from her lungs. The blanket flew off the wolf. It rose on 3 legs, faster than seemed possible, not attacking positioning. It stood between her and Carl, weight balanced on its good legs, head low. Carl raised the rifle. The wolf didn't growl, didn't bare teeth, just stood there, swaying slightly, bad leg dragging, but something in its posture made Carl step back. The rifle barrel wavered. "What the hell?" The wolf's legs shook, the effort of standing visible in every muscle. But it didn't move, didn't retreat to its corner. Blood from its shoulder wound dripped onto the concrete, each drop steaming in the cold. "Shoot it," the younger man said from the doorway. Carl's finger moved to the trigger. The wolf's legs buckled slightly, but it caught itself, straightened, still silent, still between Carl and Maggie. "It's not. Why isn't it?" Carl lowered the rifle an inch. "They don't do this." "Do what?" The younger man pushed forward. "This?" Carl gestured with the barrel. "Wolves don't. They run or fight. They don't just stand there." Maggie pulled herself up using the wall. Vertebrae grinding, her hip throbbed. The wolf's ear twitched toward her movement, but its eyes stayed on Carl. "Get out," she said. Carl backed toward the door, rifle still half raised. "This isn't natural. That thing's not right." They left, truck roaring away, leaving deep ruts in her drive. The wolf held its position until the engine faded. Then its legs gave out. It collapsed where it stood, head hitting the concrete with a wet thud. Maggie crawled to it. The wolf's eye was open, dilated. She placed her hand near its nose. Warm breath touched her palm. It turned its head slightly, nostril touching her wrist. Not affection verification. Checking if she was hurt, then something she didn't expect. A sound from deep in its chest, not a growl or whine, a rumble. Quiet, rhythmic. The wolf was purring like a cat. An almost inaudible vibration she could only feel through her hand on its ribs. Wolves didn't purr, couldn't purr. She'd worked with dozens of dogs, studied wolf behavior, but the vibration continued, and with it came a certainty that chilled her more than the freezing air. This wolf knew exactly what it was doing. It had chosen to stand, chosen to guard, chosen her. Dr. Sarah Kim's pickup bounced over the frozen ruts. Carl's truck had left. Day 5, 10 a.m. Maggie watched from the kitchen window as Sarah hauled her veterinary bag from the cab, breath clouding in the morning sun. "Where is it?" Sarah asked at the door. No preamble. 38 years old. Korean features from her mother, Montana directness, from being raised here since age 4. "Coop!" Sarah followed her across the yard. The wolf lay on its side, the blanket twisted beneath it. Its breathing had steadied since the night before, but the shoulder wound smelled worse, sweet rot mixing with ammonia. Sarah stopped in the doorway. "Jesus, Maggie, that's not a dog." "I know. That's not even a wolf-dog hybrid." "I know." Sarah set down her bag, pulled on latex gloves. "Sheriff, no. Gave me 48 hours. That was 36 hours ago." The wolf's eye opened as Sarah approached. It lifted its head an inch, dropped it back down. No strength left for threats. Sarah knelt beside it, movement slow and deliberate. Her hands moved along its body, palpating lymph nodes, checking mucous membranes, examining the wounds. The wolf endured it, only flinching when she touched the infected shoulder. Male, maybe 7, 8 years old, dehydrated, The leg's been broken at least 2 weeks. See how the swelling's organized. But these puncture wounds—" She probed the shoulder. "These are deliberate. Another wolf did this. Multiple wolves. Actually, different jaw sizes." Sarah pulled out her phone, opened an app. "I need to scan for a chip. Sometimes the research programs mark them." She ran the scanner along the wolf's neck. Nothing. Down the shoulder, nothing. Behind the ear. Beep. "Got it. Montana Wolf Recovery Project." She typed the number into her phone. "Let me check the database." The screen loaded to push it. Sarah's eyebrows rose. "ID number, sir. Released in 2010 as a 2-year-old male. Part of the Glacier Pack study." She scrolled. "Weight at release, 85 pounds. Last field sighting." She stopped. "What?" Sarah turned the phone toward her. "March 23. Note from field researcher Amanda Chen." That's my cousin, actually. "Subject 047 observed leading lost child age 4 to Ranger Station 6. Child had been missing 18 hours in sub-freezing temperatures. Wolf exhibited no aggression, maintained 15-foot distance, but repeatedly circled back when child stopped walking. Behavior unprecedented in study." Maggie looked at the wolf. Its eye was open, watching them. Sarah kept reading. Follow-up note, March 28th. Subject 047 observed at pack periphery with fresh bite wounds on shoulder and flank. Exhibited submission postures, but was repeatedly driven off by alpha pair. Pattern consistent with disciplinary exile. April. Note, 007 not seen with pack. Presumed dispersed or deceased. They kicked him out for saving a child. Wolves have rules, hard rules. Contact with humans threatens the whole pack's survival. He broke the cardinal one. Sarah prepared a syringe. Antibiotics. The shoulder's badly infected. The needle went in. The wolf didn't react. The leg needs surgery to set properly, but I can't do that here. And honestly, even with surgery, he'll never hunt again. So, what happens? In the wild, he dies. Wolves can't survive alone, especially injured. They need the pack to hunt, to protect territory, to— Sarah stopped, frowning. She ran her hands along the wolf's ribs again. That's weird. What? Feel this. Sarah took Maggie's hand, placed it on the wolf's chest. There, feel that. A vibration, rhythmic, steady, the same purr Maggie had felt the night before. Wolves don't purr, Sarah said. They physically can't. Different laryngeal structure than cats. She pressed her stethoscope to the wolf's chest. But something's causing this vibration. It's not respiratory, not cardiac. It's— Wait. She moved the stethoscope. The wolf's eye tracked her, but its body stayed still. Hey, there's scarring here. Internal. Old trauma to the larynx. Sarah sat back. I've read about this. Damage to the vocal cords that creates involuntary vibration during certain breathing patterns, usually from severe throat trauma as a pup. Trauma from what? Another wolf. Probably his mother. Sarah pulled off her gloves. Sometimes mothers will grab pups too hard by the throat, especially if they're rejecting them. If he survived that, then survived alone long enough for another wolf to adopt him. The wolf closed its eye. The purring stopped. This wolf's been rejected his whole life, Sarah said. First by his mother, then by his adoptive pack. He learned to survive on the margins until he saved that child. Maggie touched the wolf's head. It didn't pull away. Sarah packed her bag. I'll leave antibiotics. Clean the wounds twice daily. Keep him warm. Try to get fluids in him. She paused at the door. Maggie, even if he recovers, then what? You can't keep a wolf. Why not, besides the legal issues? Because he's not a dog. That standing guard behavior last night, Carl told me that's not protection. That's resource guarding. He sees you as part of his territory now. If another wolf shows up, or if he decides you're threatening his space, he stood between me and Carl's rifle. He stood between two threats to his territory. You just happened to be behind him. Sarah left. Maggie sat on the concrete beside the wolf. Its breathing had deepened the antibiotics already working, or just exhaustion. The infected shoulder wept clear fluid now instead of pus. She ran her finger along the old scarring on its throat. The wolf's eye opened. This close, she could see the color variations, pale gold with flecks of green, like river stones underwater. The purring started again. Involuntary, Sarah had said, just damaged vocal cords vibrating, but the timing was specific. Only when she touched him, only when they were alone. The wolf's eye stayed on hers, unblinking, waiting. And in that pale gold reflection, she saw movement outside the coop. 4 wolves stood at the tree line, watching. The alpha was among them. Black coat, stark against the snow, but there was another, gray, smaller, with the same pale eyes as the wounded wolf. A sibling, had to be. The wounded wolf hadn't seen them yet, but when he did, the gray wolf stepped forward from the group, stopped, lifted its head, and howled. The howl hung in the air like frozen breath. The wounded wolf's head snapped toward the door, muscles rigid beneath matted fur. His damaged throat produced a sound half-strangled, barely audible. Not a howl, a croak. The gray wolf at the tree line lowered its head, waited, then howled again, longer this time, the notes sliding from high to low. The wounded wolf dragged himself to the door, front legs pulling, back leg dragging a smear of drainage across the concrete. He reached the threshold, collapsed, his throat convulsed, producing only a wheeze. Maggie stood beside him. The 4 wolves remained still as fence posts. The gray one took 3 steps forward, stopped. Its pale eyes, identical to the wounded wolf's, stayed fixed on the coop. The black alpha moved between them, not aggressive, just there. A wall of dark fur and authority. The gray wolf's ears flattened. It backed away, rejoined the line. They stood for 5 more minutes, then turned, single file, and disappeared into the trees. The wounded wolf stayed at the door until full dark. Maggie finally coaxed him back with warm broth. He drank without looking at her. 3 weeks since the night of the hunt. The wolf's shoulder had closed, pink scar tissue replacing infected flesh. He moved on 3 legs now, the 4th held against his belly. A tripod gait that covered ground better than expected. 7 a.m. Maggie set the bowl of rice and boiled chicken by the door. The wolf waited until she sat in her chair, then approached. Always the same sniff, taste, then eat. Never rushed any more. 3 p.m. She brought her book, an old Louis L'Amour paperback, pages yellow as autumn leaves. Read aloud about cowboys and honor and the code of the West. The wolf lay in his corner, eyes closed, ears tracking her voice. 6 p.m. He stationed himself at the door, watching the tree line. Every night, same position, same duration, 2 hours minimum, waiting for something that never came. Day 15, she found the first gift. A field mouse, neck broken clean, placed precisely where she set his food bowl. No blood on it, no tears in the fur. Killed quick and left whole. Day 16, half a rabbit, the back portion, fresh, still warm. She had no idea where he'd found it, with only 3 working legs. Day 18, Carl Morrison's leather work glove, the right one. Expensive, elk hide. How the wolf had gotten it, she couldn't imagine. Carl lived a quarter-mile away. She was carrying the chicken feed bag from the shed when her boot hit ice beneath fresh snow. Her foot shot forward. The bag's weight pulled her backward. Her spine twisted, trying to catch balance, failed. She hit hard, lower back taking the impact. The 20-pound bag knocked the wind out. Her tailbone struck a buried rock. Lightning shot from her spine to her skull. She tried to sit up. The muscles locked, vertebrae grinding. Her legs wouldn't respond. 10 feet to the house might as well have been 10 miles. The wolf appeared in the coop doorway, watched her for 30 seconds, then did what shouldn't have been possible. He howled, not the strangled croak from before, an actual howl, thin and broken but carrying. It stopped, started again. Short bursts, 3 long, 3 short, 3 long. Pause, repeat. Her grandfather had been a radio operator in Korea. She knew Morse code, SO. The wolf couldn't know Morse code. Impossible! But the pattern continued, mechanical, deliberate. A truck engine on the main road, slowing. Sarah's pickup turned into the drive. "I was heading home," Sarah called out, jumping from the cab. Heard the strangest. She saw Maggie on the ground. "Don't move!" Sarah's hands checked her spine. Pelvis, reflexes. "Can you feel your legs?" "Yes, just can't move them." Muscle spasm, protective response. Sarah helped her sit, then stand. Each movement sent electricity through her nerves. "You need x-rays." "I need to feed him." "Maggie." "I'm fine." Sarah watched the wolf return to his corner. Was that him howling? You heard it. From the road. That pattern. It sounded. Sarah shook her head. Wolves don't howl in patterns. They can't count beats. Maggie leaned against the fence post. Her lower back throbbed with each heartbeat. "This one can—" "That's not possible. Damaged larynx. You said—" "Maybe the damage makes him break the sound differently." Sarah stared at the wolf. He stared back, unblinking. "Or maybe," Sarah said quietly, "he's been listening to you, learning. You read to him every day at 3. Same voice, same rhythm. He could be mimicking patterns without understanding them." "Then how did he know to use it when I fell?" Sarah had no answer. The wolf rose on his 3 legs, walked to his food corner. But instead of lying down, he did something new. He picked up Carl's glove in his teeth, carried it to Maggie, dropped it at her feet, then walked back to his corner and lay down facing away. Maggie picked up the glove. Inside, tucked into the thumb, was a folded piece of paper. Carl's handwriting, "Stop feeding it or I'll finish this myself. February 20th, 41 degrees at noon, 20 degrees warmer than normal. Snow melted in rivers down the roof, dripping from gutters in an irregular rhythm that kept Maggie awake past midnight. The wolf stood at the coop door, weight distributed on his 3 good legs. He'd been there since sunset, nose testing the wind every few seconds. His shoulders tensed with each breath. Maggie watched from her kitchen window. Something was different tonight. The wolf's ears swiveled constantly, not their usual pattern of checking the tree line. This was 360 surveillance. The first howl came at 1:17 a.m., not from the ridge where the pack usually sang, from the north to Monclose, maybe 200 yards. An answer from the east, then south, then west. The wounded wolf's hackles rose from skull to tail. He backed away from the door toward the house. Not retreating, repositioning. Maggie grabbed Bill's Remington 12-gauge from the closet. 5 shells in the tube. She'd bought a box of buckshot after Carl's threat, though she'd never fired anything larger than Bill's .22. Movement in the yard. Black shapes flowing between the trees like oil. Her porch light reached 30 feet beyond that. Darkness. The first wolf materialized at the light's edge, not the black alpha. This one was younger, lean, ribs visible beneath winter coat. It stood perfectly still, yellow eyes reflecting the bulb's glare. A second emerged to the left, gray-brown, missing part of its right ear. Then a third, pure white except for black paws, then two more simultaneously flanking the house, 5 wolves arranged in a semicircle. The wounded wolf stood between them and the front door, tail tucked but legs planted wide. The black alpha stepped into the light, bigger than Maggie remembered, 90 pounds at least, maybe more. Its eyes locked onto the wounded wolf. They stood frozen for 30 seconds, 60, 90. The alpha's lips pulled back, not a snarl fuller, showing the entire dental arcade. Canines yellowed with age, but intact. The other wolves mimicked the display, 10 sets of teeth gleaming in the porch light. The wounded wolf didn't bare his teeth, didn't growl, just stood. The alpha took one step forward. The wounded wolf's damaged leg trembled, but held. Another step. Now 15 feet separated them. Maggie's finger found the shotgun's safety. The click sounded like thunder in the silence. 5 heads turned toward the window. The wounded wolf didn't look back. The white wolf with black paws circled right, trying to flank. The wounded wolf shifted to keep it in sight, bad leg dragging a line in the slush. The movement opened his left side to the gray-brown wolf. It lunged, not at the wounded wolf past him, toward the porch. The wounded wolf pivoted on his good rear leg, somehow intercepted. Bodies collided. The wounded wolf went down, rolled, came up on 3 legs again. Blood ran from a fresh tear in his ear. The gray-brown wolf backed off, rejoined the line. The alpha stepped closer, 10 feet now. Its breath misted in the cold air. The wounded wolf's chest heaved, but he didn't move, didn't yield ground. A new sound cut through the night. Not a howl, a bark, sharp, commanding. From behind the pack, a 6th wolf emerged from darkness, older, moving stiff, white fur with gray throughout, like snow mixed with ash. The pack parted to let it pass. Female, from the narrower skull, maybe 50 pounds, one eye clouded with cataracts, she walked directly to the wounded wolf. He dropped his head, ears flat, the first submission Maggie had seen from him. The female sniffed his wounded shoulder, the torn ear, the dragging leg. Then she turned to face the alpha. They stood side by side, the crippled male and the half-blind female. David and Goliath, if Goliath brought 4 teammates. The alpha's tail rose, dominance display. The old female's tail stayed down, but she stepped forward, placing herself slightly ahead of the wounded wolf. Protecting or claiming, Maggie couldn't tell. The standoff stretched. 2 minutes, 3. The wounded wolf's bad leg gave out. He caught himself, stood again. The old female pressed her shoulder against his, taking some weight. The young, lean wolf broke first, turned, trotted back toward the trees. The white wolf with black paws followed, then the others, one by one, until only the alpha remained. It held position for another minute. Then, without warning, lifted its leg and urinated on Maggie's fence post, marking territory, marking boundaries. The stream seemed to last forever. Then it was gone. The old female stayed. She guided the wounded wolf to the coop, her body supporting his. At the door she stopped, turned toward the house. Her one good eye found Maggie in the window. They looked at each other across 30 feet of moonlit yard. Then the old female did something that made Maggie's blood freeze. She licked her lips, the same gesture, the same timing, exactly like Bill used to do when he was thinking hard about something. The old female wolf stood in the coop doorway, her clouded eye fixed on Maggie through the window. Her tongue swept across her lips again, left to right. Pause, back to center. The exact sequence Bill used when puzzling over tractor repairs or tax forms. Coincidence? Had to be. Maggie set the shotgun against the wall, walked to the back door. Her hand shook on the knob. The female hadn't moved. The wounded wolf lay behind her in the shadows. Panting, The female's good eye tracked Maggie's approach across the yard. 20 feet, 15, 10. At 5 feet, Maggie stopped. This close, she could see the wolf's age-gray hairs outnumbered white, gums receded from yellowed teeth, spine slightly bowed. The female lowered herself to the ground. Not submission exhaustion. Her breathing came labored, ribs working hard. She'd pushed herself to get here. The wounded wolf dragged himself forward, lay beside her. The female turned, ran her muzzle along his damaged shoulder. Her tongue cleaned the fresh blood from his torn ear, gentle as a mother with a pup. Recognition hit Maggie like cold water. She walked backward to the house, never turning away from the wolves. Found Sarah's number on her phone. 4 rings before a groggy voice answered, "Maggie, it's 3 a.m. "The database. Can you check something?" "What now?" "The wolf." "Wolf, you said he was rejected by his mother. Who raised him?" Keyboard clicks through the phone. "Hold on. Here, February 27 pup found abandoned, approximately 4 weeks old, adopted by lactating female, ID's teen, unusual behavior as she had her own litter." "What happened to her?" "Lost track of her in 2019. Collar stopped transmitting, presumed dead. But wait." Field note from 23. What Sarah's voice sharpened. "Same time period, saved that child. Quote, elderly female, possibly seen. Time based on markings. Observed at edge of packed territory. Cataract in left eye. Severe arthritis evident in gait. No longer participating in hunts." Maggie looked at the female. Left eye clouded, exactly as described. "There's more," Sarah continued. Final note. Female 019, last seen following Zo 47's expulsion, direction unknown. Maggie, if this is her, it is. She's at least 12 years old. That's ancient for a wild wolf. How did she even find him? Maggie ended the call. The female wolf had risen again. Standing over the wounded wolf, she nudged him with her nose. He struggled up on 3 legs. She nudged again, pushing him toward the corner where his blanket lay. He resisted. She nipped his flank, not hard, just enough. He limped to the blanket, collapsed onto it. She followed, circled 3 times, lay down, pressed against his back. The wounded wolf's damaged throat produced that strange purring. The female's ears twitched at the sound. She rested her head across his neck, and they lay still. Maggie returned to the house, watched from the window. The wolves didn't move for hours. As dawn grayed the sky, she saw the female's sides weren't moving as deeply. The wounded wolf must have sensed it too. He tried to rise, but she pressed him down with her paw. 7 a.m. Maggie carried out water and the last of the cooked chicken. The female didn't lift her head. Her breathing came in stops and starts. The wounded wolf lay rigid against her, that broken purr constant now. 8 a.m. The female's good eye opened, found Maggie sitting in the doorway. The wolf lifted her head with visible effort, looked at the wounded wolf, then at Maggie, back and forth, 3 times. Then she did something impossible. She extended one paw toward Maggie, placed it on the wounded wolf's back, and pushed. A clear gesture pushing him toward the human. 9 a.m. The female's breathing grew shallow. Gaps between breaths lengthened. 5 seconds, 10, 15, 9, 23. The breathing stopped. The wounded wolf stayed pressed against her for another hour. Then he stood, sniffed her from nose to tail. He gripped her scruff in his teeth, tried to pull. His 3 legs couldn't manage the weight. He tried again. Failed. He looked at Maggie. Waited. She understood. Together, they moved the female's body to the back of the coop, covered her with the cleanest blanket. The wounded wolf lay beside the mound until sunset. Sarah arrived as darkness fell, carrying a folder. "I can register him as a wildlife rehabilitation case. if you complete the certification course. He can stay legally. It's not ideal. But the wounded wolf emerged from the coop. He walked to the spot where the alpha had marked, lifted his own leg. The stream was weak, barely reaching the post, but the message was clear. This was his territory now. He turned toward the house, took 2 steps, stopped. His pale eyes found Maggie, and he walked inside. Through her door, into her kitchen. Sarah grabbed Maggie's arm. "Don't move. If he feels trapped," the wolf walked through the kitchen, down the hall. The bathroom door was open. He looked inside. Bill's medications still lined the sink. Moved on. The spare bedroom boxes of Bill's clothes. Finally, the living room. Bill's chair sat by the window, untouched for 30 months. The wolf circled it once, twice, then jumped up, bad leg dangling, and curled into the seat, his eyes closed. Sarah whispered, "Wolves don't. This one does." A truck door slammed outside. Carl Morrison's voice, "I know that vet's here. Saw her truck." He appeared in the doorway, rifle in hand. Carl's rifle barrel swept the room. "Where is it?" The wolf opened one eye from the Bill's chair. Didn't move. Didn't even raise his head. "Put the gun down, Carl." Maggie's voice came out steady. "That thing invaded your house. It's rabid, or he walked through a door. Rabid animals don't use doors." Sarah stepped between them. "Mr. Morrison, I'm here in an official capacity. This wolf is under veterinary supervision for rehabilitation." "Rehabilitation?" Carl's laugh cracked. "It's a wolf with 3 working legs and documented non-aggressive behavior." Sarah pulled out her phone. "I can call Sheriff Bradley right now, explain how you entered private property with a weapon." Again, Carl's face flushed purple. The rifle shook in his hands. The wolf watched from the chair, still as taxidermy. "This isn't over." Carl backed toward the door. "That thing kills 1 person, just 1, and then we'll deal with facts instead of fears," Sarah said. Carl left. His truck sprayed gravel against the house. The wolf closed his eye. Within minutes, the strange purring filled the room. June 15th, 4 months later. Maggie woke to scratching at the back door. Not the wolf, he never scratched, always waited. She found him standing on the porch, something dark dangling from his mouth. He set it down gently. Not prey, it moved. A wolf pup, maybe 10 weeks old. Its left front leg bent wrong, not broken, but deformed. Born wrong. The kind of defect that meant death sentence in the wild. The pup's eyes hadn't fully changed from blue to gold yet. It looked up at Maggie, no fear in its gaze. The wolf nudged it toward her with his nose. She knelt. The pup crawled into her lap, bones sharp through patchy fur. Solved. The wolf watched, tail tip twitching. "Where did you find this?" The wolf turned toward the forest. Back to the pup. Forest. Pup. The message clear out there. Found it. Brought it here. She carried the pup inside. It weighed maybe 8 pounds. The wolf followed, claimed his spot in Bill's chair. He'd been sleeping there every night for 3 months, though he spent days in the coop, watching the tree line. The pup drank diluted goat's milk from a bowl, tiny pink tongue working fast, so when finished, it wobbled to the wolf's chair. Tried to climb up. Its deformed leg couldn't grip. The wolf leaned down, gripped the pup's scruff, lifted it onto the chair. The pup burrowed into his belly fur, eyes already closing. Sarah arrived within the hour. "Birth defect," she confirmed, examining the leg. "The joints formed wrong. Won't ever bear weight properly. Can it survive? Not in the wild. Here." Sarah watched the pup sleeping against the wolf. "Maybe." The wolf's damaged throat vibrated with that not purr. The pup's breathing synchronized with the rhythm. "He went looking for it," Maggie said. "Didn't just find it. Went searching." "You don't know that." Maggie thought of the female wolf, pushing the wounded wolf toward her with that final gesture, of the wounded wolf standing guard, of Carl's threats, and the wolf's calculated patience. He knows exactly what he's doing. 2 weeks passed. The pup gained weight, learned the house routine, morning feeding, afternoon quiet time in the chair, evening patrol of the yard, the pup trying to follow on 3 legs, the wolf adjusting his pace to match. Carl hadn't returned. But Maggie saw his truck slow past her driveway each day, checking, June 30th, midnight. Maggie woke to howling. Not the wolf, his throat couldn't produce true howls anymore. The pup, trying out its voice, high, wavering, but carrying. An answer came from the mountain, then another. The pack, acknowledging what they discarded. The wolf rose from the chair, walked to the window. The pup followed, stumbling. They stepped side by side, listening to their kind sing in the darkness. The wolf's throat made that broken sound, trying to answer what he couldn't. The pup lifted its head and howled for both of them. December 24th, 6 months later, Carl Morrison's truck slid off the mountain road, rolled twice, landed upside down in the ravine, temperature dropping toward 0. His phone dead, arm probably broken. 2 shapes appeared at the ravine's edge, one 3-legged, moving carefully on the ice, one smaller, deformed leg held high. They howled, broken sound and clear, over and over, mechanical, rhythmic. The search and rescue team found Carl 90 minutes later, hypothermic but alive. "Wolves," he told them through chattering teeth. "2 wolves saved me." They didn't believe him until they saw the tracks. Carl never spoke about that night to anyone except Maggie. Showed up at her door 3 days after the rescue, arm in a sling, holding a 50-pound bag of dog food. "For them," was all he said. Word spread anyway. Small towns don't keep secrets. The story changed with each telling. 2 wolves became 3. The ravine grew deeper, the temperature colder. But the core remained. The crippled wolf and deformed pup Maggie harbored had saved Carl Morrison. The sheriff stopped coming around. The threats ended. People began leaving offerings at Maggie's gate, deer scraps from hunting season, old blankets, sometimes cash in an envelope marked vet bills. The wolf lived 3 more years. The pup grew strong despite its twisted leg. When the old wolf died in his sleep one April morning, in Bill's chair, where he'd claimed his place, half the town attended the burial. Carl dug the grave himself, one-handed, beside the female who'd brought him home. The young wolf still lives with Maggie, still patrols the yard on 3 legs, still howls each night clear and strong for both of them. Sometimes the wild pack answers, sometimes they don't, but they never come close anymore. They know this territory belongs to the broken ones who chose each other. Disclaimer: this story was inspired by tales of human-wildlife bonds, created solely for entertainment purposes. This work does not condone, encourage, or promote any form of violence or harmful behavior toward animals or humans. All characters and events are products of the author's imagination. Any resemblance to real persons, living or dead, or actual events is purely coincidental. Wildlife should be observed from safe distances, and injured animals require professional veterinary care. The behaviors described are fictional and should not be attempted with wild animals.